Good evening, welcome to the Goffstown Planning Board. This is our regular scheduled meeting for July 10th, the first one of the month of July. I will begin with introductions. We'll start with Dave.
Dave Pierce, I'm an alternate.
Richard Freeman.
Tim Searles.
Colleen Mayu.
Tim Redmond.
Scott Azana, Town Engineer.
Joshua Douglas, Select Board Member.
Philip Evanza.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Thank you, everyone. David will be voting tonight as one of our regular members is absent. Minutes from June the 12th.
Mr. Chairman, Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Oh,
All right.
please lead us, Richard.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Joanne, since I'm a creature of habit, could you please put the Pledge of Allegiance on my list of things to do so I don't skip it again?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Bear. So the minutes from the 12th, does anybody have anything on the minutes from the 12th?
Just one quick typo. Top of page, hang on 1 second. I can't find it now. Yeah, hang on, one sorry. They're probably looking right there in front of me and I didn't see it. It just starts, it's on top of page 3, first sentence, just the way it begins is just a typo. It says, "At this Joanne Duffy reviewed," so I think it should just start with Joanne Duffy. The way to be consistent with the rest of the minutes.
Okay. Anybody else have any other corrections?
Motion to approve,
With corrections.
correct.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Motion to approve with the corrections as noted. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Abstaining.
One abstention.
Who made that second? Oh, thanks.
Tim Searles. Okay. We'll finish these up here, except for number 3. We'll take that to the end. Request to release the escrow funds of $12,000 for the Woodland Village project for drainage maintenance costs. Map 4, lot 87-6. I'll ask our Public Works representative to speak to this matter.
Yes.
Okay, there's the tracking.
So this is
Tracking forms in your packet.
this came at the request of the developer, but first it was the lender of the project. So one of the conditions of approval for Woodland Village was to maintain a $12,000 escrow account for drainage maintenance. And when we looked, the person that called from the Boston Financial was kind of asking a lot of questions like, is this something you typically do? What
Is it in
for?
the conditions of approval?
It's
Scott?
in the conditions of
Well,
approval.
then we don't, even if it's
Yeah.
atypical, it's in there.
So I looked back and it goes all the way back to the early 2000s when this was approved. And at that time, it was an association and it wasn't going to be apartments. So I think the thought behind it was likely they were concerned that an association wouldn't carry enough cash to utilize or to be able to fix a drainage issue in a bind. So I think that's likely why the board required it. But then looking further, one of the conditions of approval for that when the project was actually approved was for a drainage maintenance agreement, which requires the owner to repair their drainage, and if not, the town steps in, can make the repair, require them to pay, and if they can't pay, it's in the agreement that a lien can be put on the property. So it seems kind of weird that you have two forms of basically almost a surety to make sure that they maintain their drainage. So Dick Anagnos has requested that condition be basically removed from the approval.
Oh, we can't remove a condition from approval, can we? Bill?
No, the other thing is, I think when that project was coming through, through the board was, they wanted to make sure, because goes back to a time we had a lot of issues with these types of things with maintenance that never got done, and then we always get left holding the bag, okay, with the things, okay? So let's say, a property is owned, okay, and you have this maintenance agreement that says if they don't do it, we can go in there, we can do the work, and we can build them, okay? So let's say ABC LLC, which we have the agreement with, sells it to XYZ LLC, okay? Does that maintenance agreement go to XLY
I believe
LLC?
it stays with the property.
Only if it's on the deed. So when you do a title search, it comes up,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
So that's what
I
some...
know it's recorded, I don't know if it's
Well,
technically.
the fact that
on.
it's recorded doesn't necessarily mean that it comes up when a title search is done. Because what you want is when the title search is done, in order for the closing to occur, everything has to be taken care of.
They only look for the liens.
So
Yeah.
it has to follow with that, okay? Because the thing that we don't want is we do this, we go to do the work, we file it, XYZ LLC, they're out of business, we're left holding a bag, it's gotta go with the property. So whoever owns the property, we can get them, if we have that as a lien on the property, when it gets sold, at the closing, the new owner has to pay us. So we will get the money at some point in
Yeah.
time.
So, Phil, the language in the easement is transferable to, and it runs with the land and is binding upon successors and assigns. So, but I agree that, so even though, so legally it's written into the agreement and it's recorded, but to your point, the new owner may not be aware of that when they purchase it, but it is running with the land. based on
I
the
understand,
language
but
we
it
have.
has to be recorded with the deed, so that when a title search is done, this comes up.
I mean, this should,
Well,
the way that this has been done, should
there
come
are
up.
many things that we've
But
done that
even-
should have been.
But
that
even
didn't.
if it doesn't come up in the title search, it's a recorded legal agreement that runs with the land, that even if someone says, well, I wasn't aware of it, well, that's fine, but it's right here, they should have been aware of it.
I understand that, but when you go through that process, then we have legal fees that we have to pay in order to get it. You want it, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
always get left holding the bag. We just got, Mast Road left holding the bag a year or two ago. It always happens. I mean, it's in there, and it was put in, there were many, many times. We got that whole thing, Tim, you remember the whole thing coming down, where the tree got stuck underneath the culvert, all those properties up there, we had to go back in.
We also got stuck holding the bag on Tower Lane.
There's
Because
another
that
one.
was one where there was a bond to finish the road, and the bond lapsed, and no one paid attention to the fact that the bond lapsed. And then it's gone, and now we have no leverage over the road. It's the same situation. So, let me recoup here with Scott. In the conditions of approval, a $10,000 escrow payment for maintenance of the storm drainage system, did that get deposited? Do you
Yeah,
have that
so
money?
the way it's written was.
Just, it says if required, which is odd, because if it's a condition of approval, it is required.
It did get deposited.
Yeah, well, no,
And
so the way I think, the finance department here interpreted that. So
Right.
see how it says it's supposed to be maintained by the homeowners association? So the finance department here.
There is no
Just-
homeowners association.
Yeah, but they decided that it was basically the Woodland Village needed to maintain the account, so the escrow wasn't, the funds weren't given to the town to hold the escrow. They're saying that the association, or in this case, the owner, the developer, is the one that's supposed to hold the escrow account. And that $10,000 is actually the $12,000 that we're talking about. It was escalated from the time that number was calculated to today's dollars for inflation.
See, the problem with this project for new members on the board is that when we agree to allow an expensive and complex drainage system to be installed, it needs to be maintained on a schedule. It's supposed to be reported to the town on a schedule. What happens is, when it fails, and the residents of that place are in jeopardy of not being able to live in their apartments, and the owners don't want to do anything about it, it falls on the town to fix it, at the taxpayers' costs. And then we have to try to recoup the money through legal remedy with a landowner or an association, which in my book is dead wrong. Because when my septic fails, or anybody at this table's septic system fails, the town doesn't come in and fix my septic for me. I have to move out of my house until it's fixed. So, this is why we've been asking for these funds to be left on deposit in perpetuity in case something goes wrong. At least we have something to use to remedy a situation.
But it's not in the town's name, right? It's actually.
See, this is where I'm trying to get from
No.
Scott. Where is the $12,000 or whatever we're talking about?
Currently, it is Boston Financial, is that the thing?
They're one
Boston
of the
Financial has
financers
created,
of the project.
Yeah.
So did they give us irrevocable letter of credit, or what did they give us?
No, they're holding the money, which is what they were asked to do, instead of Dakota Partnership, who was the developer, holding the money. They said, okay, Boston Financial will hold the money. And so it's been sitting there now for a few years.
See, and therein is another good decision, because Dakota Partners fleeced the project and left town, and stuck the New Hampshire Housing Authority
But
with the
at the
project.
time, that this money initially was requested was when Jim Coughlin owned the property.
Right.
And he was planning to do the condominium.
Right.
And so when Dakota, I remember when those conditions were carried over, if you remember, Dakota came in, made a few minor modifications to the project.
Yeah, they make minor modifications.
And and then the board said, and carry over all of the other conditions that were placed on this initially. And that's how that condition got carried over.
So there's another big condition in there, the money for the Pleasant Street roundabout. Was that money ever paid by them?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that this board is beyond its authority to make a determination on this. I think we should get a legal opinion from town council on this, and have town council tell us whether we should consider this request to release that money, or if we should keep it in perpetuity. Just don't write it down, Joanne, we didn't have a quorum decision on this yet.
Well, Tim, I think one question I have, if it's not in our name and we don't have rights to it, you're still gonna have to issue a lien on the property, no matter what.
Right, but if it's a condition of approval, then it should be maintained. It can't just go away.
Yeah, I'm
Dick
not,
Aganoff would like it to go away right now.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just saying that there's two sides here. Like, you're still gonna have to put a lien on the place if there's ever an issue. Because your name isn't on the account, my name's not on the account, nobody in this town's name
Well,
is on the
technically,
account.
all of our names are on it, because we're all taxpayers in this town.
Well, but it doesn't have the town of Goffstown on the
No.
account. It's not like we can go and grab the funds, it's still gonna be a lien against the property.
Yeah.
Well, it's an asset that we can seize.
It could be,
Because that's trying to get blood out of a rock.
it could be
when-
discussed in court, yes,
It's trying to get blood out of a rock when they're gone and there's no money.
but you're still gonna have to go through the same process.
So I think that given that this is a condition of approval, procedurally, if the current, I guess, developer, property owner wants to have the conditions of approval amended to eliminate that condition, then that requires a modification and a public hearing, right? We're amending conditions of a site plan. So I don't think that, it's not an escrow release process, it's a modification of a condition of approval. So I think that if Mr. Agnos wants that, then he should request to this board for us to consider a modification of the conditions of approval. I think that if he does that, we should have an opinion from town council on whether having the drainage maintenance, I just whistle, having the maintenance agreement recorded is sufficient, or if this is sort of a belts and suspenders. But I think, to Josh's point, if this is still an escrow account that's in someone else's name, it's not like we have an escrow that the town of Goffstown is holding, we can draw down on.
Well, then
So-
we could also require that escrow account be transferred to the town of Goffstown. It's a condition of approval.
Yeah, but I think at that point,
We have to hold on to what we have to.
Yeah.
I'm not for giving it stuff.
yeah,
Too many developers don't do what they say they're gonna do occasionally, and we're stuck holding the bag, as Phil has said many, many times. So I'm with Phil, I'm in Phil's team on this one. So, does the board think we should get an opinion from our council? I'll just poll our members. Dave?
Won't do any harm, so go ahead.
Bear?
I'm all for it.
Tim?
Yeah.
Colleen?
I think that, yes,
Okay.
if Mr. Anagnost requests a modification of the conditions of approval, we should have the town council review that.
He's already asked for it, so I
Well-
think he's gonna fill out any necessary paperwork and come back.
I think if he hears the tone of members, then he might not.
He's a developer. He's in business to make money, so let's give him credit for that. So your answer was
So I
yes?
say yes.
I say yes. Joshua?
Yes.
Phil?
Sure.
So Joanne, could you please forward Mr. Anagnost's documents to our town council for an opinion on, make it short and sweet. We have a condition of approval, and tell him what's going on and see if he thinks we should grant the applicant's wish or if we should hold tight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, is it that, Tim? Or is it that, to your original point, is can we modify that without hearing and other things that are required?
I don't think we can modify a conditional approval without a public hearing and an application from the person asking to modify the condition of approval, and that's a process, right, Joanne?
Yeah, it's you have to hold a public hearing, you have to get an application,
Right.
notify the abutters.
Which we do not have.
No.
Okay. So going back to your original point.
Yeah, and I'd let him know that this is the process, and if he decides to go that process, then let's ask the town attorney for an opinion. I think
Alright,
ask the
well-
town attorney for an opinion on something that we have no action right now.
Well, I'm in agreement with that formula, except that I'm pretty certain he's gonna want to come back.
Yeah, I
We
just
can-
don't wanna spend the town's money on an attorney until we have an actionable item.
We were the last ones that ever spend any town money on attorneys.
So if you're finished with that, before you go to the next item, there is also a request from Art Rose for that same project.
Well,
That,
same answer.
Sorry.
That-
But this is like ask mommy, ask daddy.
Which one is that one?
This is the bond that they would like to
Where
put
is
up
that?
for the remaining work.
Where is that, Joanne?
I don't see that.
I don't have it.
So you don't have copies of that?
No, we didn't get it. We just got in a tracking form for the
No,
No, I
12,000.
have my copy.
Well, then we're not
It's
gonna,
on-
we're not gonna look at it
My
tonight.
copy.
We're not gonna discuss it tonight because we don't have copies.
Okay, we'll
Thank
put
you.
it on for the next agenda.
Thank you. So then the last thing about the Bedford Planning Board, we're gonna
Yes.
discuss that after this applicant comes forward because that could be a little longer than we like and I don't wanna keep them here any longer than necessary. Okay, so our first application is a new business, map 5, lot 54-54-1, time extension request. Joanne, could you please run it for the board?
Yes, so the applicant.
You're welcome to come up.
Thank you. The applicant had previously been approved for a condominium over on Mast Road near the Shell station. And they had also been approved by the zoning board. And the zoning board, they were waiting to meet with the Board of Selectmen. They were trying to iron out issues concerning the crossing of the rail trail and relocating it to a different place further up, closer to the property line. And I'm not sure what the delay was, but I'm sure,
I think the applicant's attorney will tell us what it was.
yeah, I'm sure he'll, I don't know his name.
Sean Dunn.
No,
Sean Dunphy.
hang on.
I'm sure Attorney Dunphy will fill you in on that. But, so that's the last condition that they need to meet, and
So did they have to go back to the ZBA for
so they
another?
did go back to the
And
ZBA,
how did that go?
and they were approved. They
Okay.
went back, I think it was last week, no, it was July 1st. They went back and they received approval. And now they're here with the planning board asking for the same thing, an extension of the approval that they received.
Was this requested in a timely fashion for our statutes? Rules?
So, the applicant, let's see, the applicant's attorney stated, the plans were extended on March 13th, 2025. The planning board granted a 6-month extension to September 28th. However, a public hearing was not held. That was my fault. So now they're asking for a time extension again for a 1-year extension.
And then we
So
have to have a public hearing to make
we're
it right.
recommending that the board approve a 1-year extension, which would bring them to July 12th, 2026.
Anybody have any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll let you identify yourself for the record and begin.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sean Dunphy. I'm an attorney from Cronin, Bisson & Zielinski, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Hemley Investments, LLC. As Ms. Duffy laid out, we're here tonight to request an extension for 1 year to June 12th of 2026. The main issue that we're seeking the extension for is to work out the rail trail crossing with the Board of Selectmen, as was laid out by Ms. Duffy. I don't want to repeat everything she said because she did a pretty good job laying out the history. There were some delays in dealing with the rail trail crossing. There's some questions about title and other things and where that will be. So we're just looking for a 1-year extension in order to finish that part up. All other conditions are the same. It's a precondition before building, so we're just trying to make sure we get that cleared up before anything progresses forward.
Anybody have any questions for the attorney? Scott?
You said extension to June 12th or July 12th?
July.
Did I say June?
You
Sorry,
said-
July.
okay.
July.
I just wanted to
I
make sure our
apologize.
paper says
I wrote
July.
6, so I
Yes,
I
yes.
thought I heard you say June.
Sorry, I
Okay.
meant, it's already July, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the paper says July. I just wanted to make
The
sure.
summer's going quick, I apologize.
7/12/26.
Yes, sorry about that.
No problem.
No problem. Get an extra month. So, I don't know if are there any other issues with the project that have yet to be resolved, or is the rail trail crossing the only issue left before they can break ground and get started?
That's the main issue that I'm aware of. I don't believe there's anything else. It's just figuring out that and buttoning that down before going forward.
Okay.
The only administrative issues are, we're still waiting for them to, to check off whether or not they've met each condition once we get the
Are
plan.
there any conditions they've not
Well,
checked off?
we haven't received the final plan set from them yet, so when we get that plan set, we'll check off everything that was required to make sure.
And the final plan set hasn't been received for what reason? Because of the rail
they
trail?
usually don't submit it until everything's done.
Well,
Yeah.
Chris, a question on that?
Bill?
If there's a question regarding the rail trail, wouldn't that final determination determine where the rail trail might be located on the plan, so that might be something?
Well, that's what Joanne just said, yeah.
Okay,
They did show the relocation of the rail
Yep,
trail.
yeah, so we- I
In their
think-
last
Okay.
plan.
It has to be approved though by the board, right?
I believe you,
that's what I
you-
want.
The board
I
approved
believe
it.
this board voted on
Yeah.
approving
Yeah.
the plans with the new location.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But we're hearing they're not final.
It's because of right-of-way issues with the Board of Selectmen in town of Goffstown.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's at the board level right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
so what's probably not on there is like the final easement lines for the rail trail, because the rail trail actually now leaves
Right,
the rail corridor and goes onto the Hemley
Onto
property.
private land.
Yeah.
that was my point.
So,
Okay, thank you, Phil. Does anybody have any questions for this applicant?
Just one more.
Please, go ahead,
I
John.
don't understand the year time frame because like the public hearings, they take a year, right? So like, what's the-
Public hearing is tonight for the applicant. There's gonna be a public hearing tonight. We're gonna open a public hearing, right, Joey?
Right.
And if no one's here to speak to it, then we've done our due diligence for the public hearing.
He's asking why a year and not 6 months. I
Because
think.
we always used to give them a year. I think they asked for 6 months because they thought they were gonna have it done sooner than that time frame. The last time they were here.
it's also late in the season to try and get a contractor to be able to bid on your project, so. they
I've
might-
never, it's very rare that we've given a 6-month extension And we were happy to give one because it motivates the developer to get their stuff done. Because the project at Woodland Village got 1-year extensions since 2009 before it finally got built.
No, I get that, but they already have an extension until September, don't they? Isn't that what I heard?
Well, no, but that, I think that September extension isn't really necessarily valid because it was not done in a public hearing by this board. So this is cleaning up, but instead of extending it to September, it's giving it a full year. And Scott, just because you mentioned construction, this is another year to get the plan signed. They still have, under the statute, 2 years after that to begin with
okay.
construction, right? So,
Okay.
so this is just for plan signature?
Right.
Okay. But still, I mean, I understand why a full year, but I'm fine with a year if that's what's been requested, but.
Generally speaking, we ask for the reason why they want an extension, and if it's a valid reason, it seems reasonable that we would grant an extension if the board agrees that it's a reasonable request. We extended that Woodland project for many, many years on the statement that it was economically not viable to get someone to get it to build.
There's also some discussion about whether the town has title to the rail trail.
Well,
So I
that's-
think there's a legal argument going on.
There's a whole stuff that we don't know anything about, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay, well, the ball's not in our court other than to say yes to an extension or no. All that other stuff is with the Board of Selectmen, Joshua, it's gonna be
Yeah, I look forward to seeing
it's
that.
going to your
Yep.
department.
Mr.
So go ahead.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to grant a 1-year extension to July 12th, 2026 to satisfy the conditions of approval.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made by Colleen, seconded by Phil, to grant the 1-year requested extension to July the 12th of 2026. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Take care.
We love
thank you.
short-spoken lawyers.
That's what I'm here for.
Spread the word.
See you in a year, don't be late.
Thank you. Have a good
I
night.
hope not. I hope we see dirt being moved. Okay, we're gonna go back to the other item on the copy of the letter from Bedford Planning Board regarding St. A's. Just a little background. Joanne and I attended that meeting at the Bedford Planning Board. I think it's time for us to get a new budget for our planning board because the Bedford Planning Board, they all have laptop computers in front of them. They all have the plan on the giant screen, and the plan is on their computer in front of them. Nobody has to be squinting to look at the plan over there. And the people in the audience can all see the plan because it's on the giant screen.
Well, we have that big TV back there. I can have Brian show me how to set it up, and we can get the
Well,
plans up there.
that's new because that's never been here before.
Well, we got a big screen right behind you.
Yeah,
but that goes with
that
that.
like shines in the face of the
You
people
can't
over
use that
here.
because that
And they
projector.
block it too.
I think what Tim's saying is he's jealous.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the fact that they
Yeah.
have a very
Have
technical.
you seen how much industry they have in that town?
A very, very technically advanced system, which doesn't mean that all boards can't share the system. It's just the download for the meeting. Same computers that we would look at, the selectmen would look at, and the conservation would look at, and the budget committee would look at.
Yeah, they talked about that a long time ago and then nothing came of it.
Put in the budget request.
So Joanne, could you, now that I've told them that we were there, I spoke, Joanne did not speak, or did you speak, Joanne?
I spoke after you.
Okay, after I did. I just made it very clear, I did not address the merits of the project, I only addressed the points that we all talked about in regards to the impact, regional impact, which was lighting, but the fact was is the applicants must have listened at this meeting because they stole all of our thunder and they addressed all the points to the Bedford Planning Board before I could stand up and tell them that they were deficient. So I gave them credit at the Bedford meeting for listening to our discussion. We actually have had more meetings on that subject than the Bedford Planning Board had. So, They were only on their second meeting, we had already had 3.
Here's a-
So they did incorporate some of our comments in, and I'll let Joanne take it from there.
There's a few things in here that I think that really wasn't discussed with our board, that they've now put in their conditions of approval. So let me just go through this really quickly.
Yeah, that's a good word, quick.
Oh, so they don't plan on closing Runlet Hill Road. Or not closing, opening Runlet Hill Road.
And I
They're
spoke-
just leaving it as a class 6.
I beat them up hard on that, sharing the traffic impact, and they blew us right off.
Well, not only that, their condition is that they
Oh,
need to
yeah, it
petition for the
goes up St. A's Drive.
discontinuance. Yeah,
Right.
so it's not even that they're
Right.
not
They
opening
have
it,
no
they're,
intention of ever.
they're
All
actually
construction
discontinuing
equipment.
and eliminating the
Right.
street.
Go into a
So
box.
as a result, they're planning to bring in all of the construction traffic through St. A's Drive and then into the St. A's site through the main entrance of St. A's.
So I would suggest that this board, based on that statement, I think this board should consider sending a suggestion of some sort via the Board of Selectmen to the Department of Public Works, that the roads be, I don't know, surveyed prior to the construction, and if there's any damage from the construction, post-construction, that they're responsible to fix it. And it's a fair request, because in my former position with the town of Ware, we had a logger that wanted to use town roads to come from Francistown, and we required them to camera all the roads, and when they were all done, they cameraed them again, and we all checked them together and found there was no damage, and they didn't have to pay any damages for using our town roads.
Where are they entering from? What, are they entering from the Manchester side or from the,
They're coming through Goffstown.
oh,
On St. A's Drive.
I
St.
from the
A's.
start off of
I
114?
assume one.
Well, or they
Yeah.
could come in from Manchester, the other one, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
it's less likely in terms of with the,
Yeah, it depends
loaded
on
dump trucks and
what they're
everything, but-
hauling, whether or not they're
Yeah.
gonna
Well,
go from
I think that's a
road.
significant fill for that project too,
Yeah, we
if I
talked
remember
about that.
correctly, so it's gonna be a lot of loaded dump trucks.
There's a significant change in grade for the project. They're raising the grade dramatically to build the field. So there's gonna be-
I agree with you, Tim, because we already have a number of problems with the roads on that side of
So,
town.
I think that this board be within its rights to send a request to the Board of Selectmen and the DPW that we have them, as a condition, required to check the roads prior, pre-construction and post-construction. I mean, they're doing the big other building right now, but that's a Goffstown building.
I don't know that we
That
have
building's
any,
complete.
like, mechanism to require that, but we can, I mean, as a good faith gesture, we can request that the college do that. Or we can suggest the Board of Selectmen.
Board of
request
Selectmen is a
that the
governing body,
college
they
do
can
that.
decide whatever they want. If they say they have to do it, then they have to do it. And I'm not gonna worry about statutes or words, because they can go fight us if they don't like it. But the point is, you have to protect your road investment, and with a project of that scale, that's not even in our town. Bedford is denying them access to the site on Bedford roads. That's a clear mistake in my book, against the town of Goffstown. I would go after them and not worry about it, that's just me.
So the building's gonna be completely on Bedford property.
The whole building, and
Yeah, the only part of the project that comes on to Goffstown is their connection to sewer and water.
which
Through
they came
through
here
a
for.
parking lot.
They came here
Yeah.
and requested that at a prior meeting a long time ago and was granted.
But
Upon
that's-
hook into our system.
That's the only shovels in the ground part. I wouldn't be surprised if they use some of those parking lots up there for some staging or something, but,
Oh, I'm sure.
um,
But
actually,
anyway,
that parking lot might not even be in Goffstown, actually.
that isn't Bedford, that parking lot.
Yeah,
Because we gave permission for that how long ago, Phil? 10 years ago?
So-
All right, Joanne,
so-
sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay, so Bedford did agree about the stop signs at the end of St. A's Drive that Manchester had requested.
The four-way stop.
And I think.
what does
that-
it matter to Bedford? It has nothing to do with them.
Bedford was identified in the traffic report as a failed intersection, and it was required by the Bedford Planning Board that they,
And I think the select board has approved that.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
we did.
Okay,
I
and
think
then,
it needs some coordination with Manchester, because one stop sign goes in Manchester, one goes in Goffstown.
That was
so-
condition, that it should be coordinated.
yeah.
Which DPW needs to do that coordination.
Yeah,
The next one is that they talked about providing, that they shall provide a development agreement to summarize the ongoing monitoring and enforcement requirements related to the noise
Can
restrictions.
you tell us what number
hours-
you're on? 14?
16.
16.
Hours of use, stormwater monitoring, PFAS testing, and lighting restrictions. The agreement shall be reviewed and approved by the planning director. Now, I spoke with Becky, and initially, at the meeting that Tim and I were at, she spoke up and said there should be a development agreement with Bedford and Goffstown and the developer. But the way this is written up, it doesn't mention Goffstown any longer. And then I spoke with her on the phone, and she said that she didn't think that that would be a good idea to have Goffstown mixed in with a Bedford approval. However, then she said that she doesn't, also Bedford doesn't want to be the enforcer for everything, because they just don't want to be the ones to constantly be out there watching everything. So after that meeting was over, Tim had left a little earlier than I did, and I spoke with their St. A's attorney and their engineer. And when I mentioned the development agreement, they both thought that Goffstown should be included. So when I questioned why it wasn't in here, she said, well, you never got back to me. Well, it was like, I didn't know I was supposed to get back to you. That was something they made it known that they agreed to that.
At a public meeting?
They agreed with me after the hearing, but
Oh.
she mentioned Goffstown
All right.
at the public hearing.
Well, is it too late to do anything about it?
So she's going to check, I spoke with her about a week ago, no, a week and a half ago. And she's going to check with the town's, Bedford Town's attorney to see what can be done at this point, since the hearing and the decision is already
what
been
did they
done.
state during the meeting? Did they include Goffstown during the meeting when they were talking
The
about the
planning
conditions?
director stated it, but
Yeah.
they weren't like commenting at that point, she was just going over everything.
Well, She did agree that the Public Works Department should be involved, and it's stated in
I saw the,
number 19B at a pre-construction meeting.
Yeah.
Also, that all the reports for everything are supposed
Yeah.
to go to you as
yeah,
well.
I know we requested that.
And you got it, because they said they would do it at the meeting. Oh, number 20.
It's number 20.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If the building sits on
Oh, here we go.
Bedford property
I'm in your court.
and there's a fire, who's responsible for it?
Bedford.
How are
Although
they,
Goffstown will go
Goffstown
probably.
will
how are
go.
they gonna get to it?
Bedford will have to roll up on Run a Hill and drag the hoses through the field like old firemen used to do.
Did they talk about that?
Nope,
No,
not at the meeting.
That seems like a huge,
Who's gonna respond for the ambulance calls over there?
well, that's what I'm saying, like, it's a
Well, this-
huge
Maybe it's
problem.
a good time for Board of Selectmen meeting to discuss this. Because you're in charge of the emergency responses in this town.
Yeah, that's a serious problem.
It is. The whole thing is a serious problem. Bedford refuses to accept any of the traffic or anything other than the depleted noise and lights.
Well,
The PFAS stuff all runs to the Goffstown people. It doesn't run uphill into Bedford. It runs downhill into the people who live in Goffstown's land. So
they could annex the land and we'll just take all the revenue.
and the only thing
there is no revenue.
The only thing they're doing with the PFAS is they're providing us with the reports of the inspections, which we really don't know
No.
when that will even be. There's no set schedule.
Yeah. The whole problem with that too, though, is once you're contaminated with PFAS, like even if we detect it, it's there forever.
Well, we
So-
talked about that at the meeting, and I spoke about that, and one of the Bedford Planning Board members said that we wanted to have pre-construction testing for PFAS on the site, which we thought was good.
Yeah, no, you
And then they wanted to have post-field construction testing for PFAS along the drainage system. There's gonna be a collection area where the surface water from the field will run. Did they talk about having
But they didn't include
PFAS-free?
any of that in here.
Yeah,
Well-
they did, PFAS
Yeah, it
testing,
is. It's
certification,
mentioned.
Which
monitoring.
number?
Number 11.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I don't know who Elizabeth Denley is and what this memo, but
Okay, they just don't have the details,
No, the details are,
or probably in the
On the
report.
print.
Yeah,
but they're gonna have a collection area for stormwater at the field level, which will collect the surface water from the field. The field, if there is PFAS in the artificial turf, that's where it'll be detected, because that's where it's gonna be, the water's gonna be collected. So then I said, well, you know, this project calls for mountains of fill to be brought in to raise the grade. Are you going to test for PFAS in the fill that's being brought in, so that we don't contaminate the ground with PFAS contaminated dirt? And they thought that was a great idea to check that dirt, so I hope they do actually check the fill as it's being delivered to the site and do soil testing on the fill they're bringing. I don't know where it's coming from. But we did talk about that at length, because prior to us speaking, our Goffstown residents' attorney spoke, and he laid it right out for them. The folks who are receiving all the stormwater, their attorney who spoke at our meeting, he spoke there, and he was very provocative. So we feel that was a partial win, and that we're gonna be included in the reporting and pre-construction meetings. However, we're not winning because they are shoveling all of the construction, all of the traffic, all of everything into Goffstown.
and I don't remember them discussing that when we were there, and I read the minutes from the meeting where the final approval, and it didn't seem to me that there was any discussion about that, it was just part of the conditions of approval.
I'm gonna recognize Dave, he's the current chair of the sewer commission. There were 3 points that, he doesn't have to dwell on them, but there are 3 issues that the sewer commission has taken with the, Dave, could you please elaborate?
Yes, item 4, condition 4 asks Goffstown Sewer Department to provide approval for the application, essentially approval for the sewer to enter our system. And the sewer department presently has a 4-year agreement with the college, and under that agreement, this construction can take place. We don't address any increased annual use fee until another 4 years from now. In the meantime, construction that may or may not affect the sewer flow takes place. And 4 years from now, we will address, if necessary,
Any
a
changes.
revised sewer fee. That logic also affects condition 10. 10 was, is there an intermunicipal agreement? It needs to be updated. Well, there is no intermunicipal agreement between our 2 communities, therefore it's a mute issue. There's nothing to update, nor, at least it's my opinion, the sewer department would not seek to have such an agreement. It basically addresses the maximum flow we're allowed to send to the treatment plant, and a trading of that maximum flow. And a flow out of this complex isn't even in a decimal place, so it's mute. Item, the last one was item 21. When Bedford issues a certificate of occupancy upon the, everything being constructed, verify that a sewer accessibility fee shall be paid. And once again, under our sewer department's agreement with the college, we would not address the accessibility fee at the time of construction. If there's if we document an increased flow in 4 years, then that allows us, we then have the documentation to address accessibility fee, but not during construction.
this almost sounds like it's like a Bedford sewer accessibility fee? Like,
Well,
is
well, it
Bedford
doesn't-
charging
it
a sewer
doesn't say.
access fee?
I brought that to Dave's
And
attention.
it's-
It doesn't say who gets
It
the
doesn't
fee.
say, therefore,
Interesting.
a draft, the sewer commission will be addressing these three issues later this month.
Okay,
And my potential draft, going back to the Bedford Planning Board and the college, in that item, we say that this town will, the approval of the certificate of occupancy is not beholden to our town's accessibility fee. Yep, so I'm clearing us off the record.
And there's one other item that was stated, I believe, somewhere in the paperwork, that if they decided to ever expand the facility or do any expansion on the property in that area, that they would be required to bring the sewer line up Runlet Hill, at which time the sewer then would go into the Bedford system. It would be removed from the Goffstown system. But that's fine, it doesn't matter. So they've really laid it on the line with them not to develop anymore. They're gonna incur millions of dollars of sewer infrastructure fees to bring the sewer up from the hill to the site from whatever that street is at the bottom of the hill where the corner is.
So
What is
Bedford's,
that street?
Bedford's trying to avoid all costs if possible, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's what.
Really, and I've been saying that since we started this,
that's
with
when
the
they
sewer
can afford
commission
their
and with the planning board. They
computers.
don't, they want, and there's no revenue, there's no taxes. They don't get anything out of it.
They want Goffstown to absorb all the liability and they just get the issues.
I think to your point, the emergency services should be worked out in advance. It's something that's agreeable between the town council and Bedford and the town board of selectmen.
Yeah.
Is Bedford one of the towns that we have mutual aid with?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
But you don't do mutual aid every time.
Yeah,
You do it when they can't respond.
when you can't respond or when
Correct.
you need additional
Okay.
response.
So, does anybody have if anybody has anything they'd like to add to this, now's the time, or email Joanne with comments, and she can include them based on her assessment, and if there's any responses to be made to the Bedford Planning Board.
I just have one question.
Phil?
It's number 7. Applicant shall review the parking concerns along Rundle Hill Road and Worthley Hill Road with the town's highway safety committee and post the area near the college as no parking zone if recommended by the committee. I understand that Bedford is a town council.
Bedford's Highway Safety Committee, not Goffstown's Highway Safety.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Now, that's why I made the point. They have a town council. We have a board of selectmen. We have a highway safety committee that makes recommendations, that goes to the board of selectmen, and only the board of selectmen can approve it.
Yeah.
So they're asking for a recommendation by the highway safety committee. All it is a recommendation. Is the planning board approve it in Bedford, or does
You don't know.
the council approve it?
We don't know that.
My question is
All
that-
they're doing is they're trying to stop anybody from parking on Rundle Hill and force them all into the Goffstown parking lot.
Well, I guess my question is, I don't even know if they have the, if that
They don't
would
have
be
the authority
legal.
for that,
That's them, that's not us.
that's not us,
I'm
Number
just-
number
I'm just-
7 is a Bedford condition.
yeah, not
I, no,
ours.
I understand it's a Bedford condition, and I question whether they have the authority to do that. That's all.
Their
Just making a point.
Well, that's
So-
good, but
So just so I'm sure about this, the road that they typically open up now for like graduations, that's the road that
they want to discontinue that.
That's Run the Hill Road.
that's the one they wanna get rid of. And,
I asked that they provide a gate and allow the security, I said it at the meeting. I asked that you provide a gate that campus security could open for nights that you have events in the field house that's on your property, in your town, and allow traffic to share with Runlet Hill in and out. They dismissed it completely at the meeting, and now they've gone so far as to discontinue the road and put grass down where the road used to be. Discontinuing the road means it goes away completely.
They need that to go through a hearing process and everything, right? With their select
It's a
board?
council, so they
It's
don't
only-
have to go to
It's
town
council.
meeting.
Yeah, it doesn't go to town.
The only
meeting.
way that could get faulted is if when St. A's has a mutual aid agreement with Bedford for fire and emergency services, that road needs to stay there
Has
so
to
that
stay there.
Bedford has a way in and out.
correct.
So then that would veto any request to discontinue the road, Joanne.
I think it would be a good idea for our Board of Selectmen to, and, you know, and the police chief and fire chief, to communicate with the Bedford town manager and ask to be advised if there is going to be a public hearing on discontinuance of that road. And I think that our emergency services and select board would want to give comment. So I mean, if the select board wants to direct
Oh, boy.
Derek to talk to their town manager, I think that because we wouldn't necessarily receive a notification of that intent, of that discontinuance hearing. But I think that that's very important for our emergency services folks to be able to weigh in on that for access to the college.
Well, technically, we might, it depends on who the abutters are to it. So if we abut it, we might legally,
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
I- and I-
anyway, I don't.
it's a town council, so the town council is the town meeting. You know, council doesn't, they don't have a town meeting like,
But they
Yeah.
would hold a hearing.
They'd hold a public
right,
hearing,
but whether or
we just
not
don't know.
we're required to be notified,
But I think if you ask the Bedford town manager,
Yeah.
as a courtesy to advise us if a meeting, if that's gonna be on a town council agenda, I think our emergency services folks would wanna comment on that.
Okay,
It
we're
just
gonna-
seems
we're gonna-
short-sighted.
We're gonna move on.
Does
for that.
Bedford have more than one fire department?
No, they won't.
They just have the.
They
the
never
one
They
built
just
on
have-
101.
They've
Just
never,
the one on
no, they were
Constitution.
gonna build one down where this old Sunel's used to be, but I don't know if that ever got built or not.
It's
Or
got
auto parts
rejected
store,
the
Napa.
last two,
All right, Colleen, I need to ask you to make a motion to rescind your motion to grant the one-year extension, because we never had a public hearing. So I'm gonna make a motion, would you make a motion to rescind your one-year extension, please?
I will rescind that motion.
and I second it.
Okay. Okay, so now that that motion has been rescinded, I'm gonna open the public hearing for the one-year extension for the Woodland,
Park Place.
Park Place, request for a one-year extension. It is 8/7/50.
750. Not
He changed it
7/53.
to 7.
Yes.
Yeah,
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah,
750, not 850.
yeah.
I didn't say it, did I?
No,
You
said
started to
seven-
say 8, you corrected
You
yourself.
corrected
Yeah,
yourself.
750.
Okay, so is there anyone here to speak on the application to grant a one-year extension? Seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Colleen, would you make a motion, please?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion again to grant a one-year extension to July 12th, 2026, to satisfy the conditions of approval.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, anyone willing to discuss this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Okay, we got that corrected. I should have caught that.
Even the attorney, their attorney didn't
Yeah,
come.
he bailed right out of here. But at least we did it right.
You got $500.
Okay. Joanne has zoning development regulations on the agenda, which I hate to read. Can we stay in and talk about these?
Well, that was the plan.
All right, well, we're gonna have 30 minutes of development regulations. At 8:30, we're closing the book and going home.
Okay.
If it doesn't get concluded by 8:30, then that's it.
I haven't read them. I know that you said last month, and I have not read them, so
I'm
I'll-
sure no one has,
Yeah.
if I had to guess.
I have 3 sets of development regulations.
Are they all the same
blue
year?
one is
So-
the, is the,
That's
I
the
got
that's the
existing,
current
2015.
that's the one we're working off of.
yeah, that's the
I-
current
I
edition.
got a small version of a really small version, and I'm just wondering, just wondering
Well,
what I
the
should
really
be.
small version, the board,
I think it has some,
said they
the comments in
couldn't
it,
read
right?
So we made it larger.
Okay.
So
this
it
is
should say towards the bottom right, draft.
draft October 2024.
I think both
They
of
both
those.
of them say, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe they're the same
I
one.
actually
Yeah, I
grabbed
think
them on
they're
the way
same.
out.
That looks like
the
it's
door
just like a
today.
track changes version,
It
it's
is.
like,
But I don't even think there's
There's
any
no
track
changes.
changes
Yeah.
comments on it.
It's just the way it was printed
Okay.
out.
So does anyone want it?
I'll take it, because
It's all right, so
Or
we've
would
got,
you like the bigger one?
I can,
You sent them out in soft.
I sent them out in the packet of who knows, Patty sent them out. But there is an extra copy, Tim, in the reading folder,
I was just wondering, you sent a soft
Who wants
copy
it,
as
Phil?
well?
I'm not gonna read it.
yes.
Okay.
Who wants the extra copy? Anybody?
I'll take it.
There you go, Phil. Pass that to Phil, please.
I would love to pass it to Phil.
It probably would have come from Patty's email, Patricia.
Yeah.
Gail.
All right, Joanne, the floor is yours.
Okay, so basically this is a whole new setup. The way we started talking about it, we were hoping we could do a red line version, but there was just too many changes and you would have never been able to follow along with it. So we thought, okay, we'll just start over again. So the setup is we still have under general provisions, which is section 2, we still have, you know, the authority, the title, the validity, et cetera. And then the definitions are still in the same place. And then we go into application procedures and approval process for subdivisions. So
Joanne,
that's,
can I interrupt you for 1 second, please? I'm
Sure.
sorry. How invested is Barbara in the development regulations for discussion purposes? Has she been on the phone with you or negotiating with you or anything?
no.
Because I don't want to
I
get,
know she came in and I gave her a copy, but
I would
I
like
think she
to,
already had comments on it, because when we started to talk about it one night at the end of a meeting, I think she got right into stuff that she saw
maybe she
early
had
on.
started to look it over.
so I do not want to make any substantive discussions tonight that would result in a second substantive discussion at another meeting. I would like to just generally review them with everyone for tonight, and then we can have a substantive discussion when all board members are here.
Okay.
Because that would save time and energy.
Okay. So then we get into the application procedures and approval process. And we still have, you know, the TRC committee, conceptual review, technical review, and then formal application. We talked about changing, I don't know if it made it in here, but we talked about changing the way we do the technical review committee so that we could have better plans to, the plans can be to the point where lots of things are already looked at before it
think-
gets to this board.
I think that we're trying to follow suit with other communities that have all the engineering and all that stuff worked out,
Right.
interdepartmental with the applicants prior to them even coming to the planning board. Because
Correct.
for all of us to sit here and talk about drainage and wetlands surveys and everything else, this is all expert testimony that's given, and when the department heads in our town sign off on it, or committee sign off it, we generally accept their opinion as good for the town, and it saves us a lot of talking. So I think that's where that general train of thought came from.
Yes, and so what we decided to do was to continue to have a technical review committee, have the applicant there, obviously, to present their plans. And then the committee itself kind of talk about it afterwards and compile a list of what the comments were so that we could send them to the engineer, so that they could have something to work with before they submit to the planning office for, you know, final submittal before it goes to you guys, that we would go back and forth with them a few times to make sure that, okay, now these plans are ready to go. And that's really the only way to get around that 30-day rule where once they submit for planning board review, that there's only 30 days in which the planning board has to make a decision on conditional, not conditional use, but on accepting the plans. And so staff can go back and forth with it, but because they haven't yet submitted that final plan to go to the planning board, so that's why we thought.
So that's a new law that we only have 30 days to,
No, that's been on the books for a while.
From the date and application.
So it's only for
files.
completeness, not for the approval of the plan
okay.
itself. The board has, I think it's 65 days now. They haven't changed
that's
that
the
for a
clock
while.
that we have
Yeah.
them wait sometimes.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that is the developers, some of the developers' opinions, that they don't want to spend a lot of money on plans
Right.
before they come to the planning board, because they're afraid the planning board might make an arbitrary decision, and they will have wasted their money preparing plans. So that
Right.
it's a double-edged sword.
So,
So this TRC section in this book is very short and doesn't basically say that, so
Yeah.
that's something we might want to retool.
yeah, we definitely need to retool this. It says it in a roundabout way, but it's not very thorough.
It does state that it doesn't start the completeness review
Right.
process. But it kind of just states that guidance and staff comments relative to the application, inclusive of any need for zoning actions or variance or special exceptions. So that's kind of what we do now, is we look at their rough plan and basically tell them what they can expect, tell them the hurdles that they have to get through, whether it's a variance or something that they would require based off what they've shown us.
We've also had, and I'm a prime complainer, is that people come to the planning board with plans that are so incomplete that they give them to the department heads over here to review their engineering plan. And whatever the reimbursement rate for Scott's time is, or prior Megan, whoever else did it before, because we can only charge their pay plus
All the overhead.
the overhead associated with it, which is probably 1/4 of what an engineer charges them to review their plans. And what they were doing was, they were finishing their plans and giving them all the points that were wrong, and then Scott spends hours doing that. They hand it to their engineer, they make the changes on the plan in 3 hours, and guess what? They just got a cheap engineering bill.
So
That's
So-
outrageous.
We wanted Scott to pick a number, and when he got to 15 or 20 or points
Well, it's
that were
a decent
incomplete,
number.
well, whatever it was, we need to have a finite number that, if you reach a point and there's 20 things that aren't right, you need to say, we just reached a number, here's your plans, fix them and bring them back to me.
So
think-
here's the issue with the TRC
I
doing
just
that.
want to say one thing. I think that number should exclude, like, the typical conditions that are on every plan.
I don't.
So I think that, and if I recall, that this was gonna have a much better, more robust checklist that went with it.
Yeah.
So I think that what you'd wanna do is build into, between the technical review committee and the formal application of the planning board, that formal application, there's a checklist review that's done by staff. So that, yes, we need to formally accept it, the application, but maybe at completion of TRC is when you have a checklist review that all of the items are at least there, are in some, you know, so I think we had talked about that, and I think you have a better checklist built in here, and I don't know what the language is, but I think by adding it to the TRC, and then avoiding, hopefully, them using Scott as their design engineer, which
Is that
should not be
considered
his role.
completeness?
Right.
And I think it's like a completeness review that's done, like as part of the formal filing the application. And the trouble is, right now, we, for completeness, say,
very
have you
small.
notified abutters and you filled out this
Yeah,
one piece of
it's
paper?
very
Like,
small.
completeness really should be that
Signatures and everything.
the 8-page checklist of your 2-foot topo lines there, your wetlands are delineated, you've got a wetland line to stamp. Like, if they don't have those things,
They're
then
incomplete.
it's not complete.
And not ready to review.
And that you, if they, you start making an example out of people, but you say, hey, the planning board will not find this complete because you're missing these items, and I'm not putting you on an agenda, redo this, submit everything complete. And if they say, well, no, I want to go on the agenda, then you submit a staff report that says, these 17 items are missing, staff recommends that this not be complete.
Right.
And we all say, sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Smith, your application's not complete, you've wasted your time and your engineer's time.
Right.
I don't want to be a jerk, but I think that if people start giving you a hard time and not submitting what they need to, and wasting your time and Scott's time and this board's time, it's silly. So, I mean, I want to be business friendly, I want to work with people, I want people who are doing things on their property to be able to do things, but they need to follow the rules, and we can't waste time looking at plans that haven't even just met the basic, you
Well,
know.
if you don't want to be the jerk, I will.
Yeah, see, Bear will be the jerk. He'll make the
I think
motion
it's,
to
I think we
deny.
got a little team going here.
Yeah. I just think that
broad shoulders.
That co-
Yeah, that's
that
what.
I think that if we, the whole point of these regulations, I think, is to make it very clear what the expectation is, and then we're gonna hold people to that. I'm just gonna keep talking
Well,
until it's
that's better.
8:30. Then Phil's gonna make a motion to adjourn, we'll all go.
Oh, yeah, I have one little teeny thing to add at the end. Very short.
So, that's my soapbox, and I will step
Okay.
down now.
Thank you for your help.
Be careful getting down.
All right, Joanne, move on, please.
So
Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
Scott's-
Scott
I mean,
wanted to
we're
say
talking
something.
about trying to get rid of all comments at a TRC level. They don't submit an escrow account until they apply for
Yeah,
the one
that
that
should cover.
for
So we-
engineering
we
review.
should have
So
that
if
included
we're gonna
then.
do engineering review at TRC, we
Yeah.
need to have that
Escrow
escrow.
account
Yeah.
established earlier, yeah.
Yeah, because if I can't build to it, then
Do we-
they're now getting it for free.
Do we should check it what other towns do, Scott, see what's the city of
Okay.
Manchester do, Bedford, Londonderry, these other more progressive towns that are on the ball with these people, see what they all do. Joanne, you're up.
Okay, so just going through that section, it basically takes you, after TRC, it takes you to the planning board. Once the planning board approves it, it takes you to the board's signature and distribution of copies and all of that. So it goes step by step along the way as to how things progress. And then-
Tell everybody what page you're on.
I'm on page 24. And then it starts with the start of construction of development and talks about whether it's a phased development and how that works, and then completion of construction. And it just goes through, it's not very long, it's only 2 pages, but it just goes through the steps to follow, so everything is there.
Joanne, I'd like to see that phased development clause be adjudicated during the planning process. I don't want people coming back in here after an approval is made. Now, well, we like to phase it now, because that changes all the approvals. Phasing should be decided prior to the conditions and become a condition of approval, like they did at Woodland Village. That was a phased project, and they did it in the beginning.
Okay, this is just some more of the same. All right, and then it goes into roads.
Page, please.
Sorry, 31.
31.
So it starts with roads, road names. How does a road get a name?
Select
What's the process?
No, fire department.
Class,
Name is the Board of Selectmen, isn't it?
The fire department has to approve it, but I believe the select board
Yeah.
has to
Yeah,
vote
well,
on
yeah,
accepting the.
right.
yeah, and they can't be too close to it.
Yeah, that's what the
That's-
fire
yeah.
department makes sure.
Right, you can't have one as a road and one as a way
Yeah.
or similar.
That's
And
why
then-
this Park Place project actually has that name, because they wanted a name that was similar to the the Falls one, right?
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. Factory Street one, yeah. Then it talks about class 6 roads and private roads
Ooh,
and
Class 6
and
road.
all, what the difference is. And then it goes into subdivision, which is specifics for the plans and the documents for a subdivision. And there's a whole section just on subdivisions and how they go about doing that. And then on page 37, it goes into site plans and what the specs are for that and what's required on the plans themselves. There's a listing.
Do any of these get changed with some of the new things that have been voted in the state?
You mean, should they be updated?
Well, yeah, I'm just
You're
curious,
talking legislatively or
Yeah.
town vote?
because of some of the
Like
legislation.
some of the ADU.
Well, anything that's legislative, we try to include in the zoning articles or amendments, and then they voted stuff faster than we could vote it in. So
Well-
we were already behind the curve on one or two of them.
Some of the things that were voted in this year, and this is kind of new, up at the legislature, is that they're mandating now how towns are doing land use. So some of the items that, even though we may have it different in our books, the state has mandated it. So regardless of what we have,
We
we have to
defer
go
to
by
the
what the
state
state
statute.
says. I was looking yesterday, there was an email that came out from the Municipal Association. the governor has not signed
5 bills.
Yeah,
the one on
ADU.
ADUs.
All right, well, let's stick with our
Okay.
development
All
regulations.
right, so that goes through the site plans. Then we come up to the security guarantees, which would be the bonds, the letter of credits.
Which we might need to change that because the state changed what you can do
About
for
how-
bonding.
When you can put a bond on a new
Yeah.
road, for instance.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think the type of bond, I think it specifically states it can't be self-calling now too, which I think is one of the
It
things our
states
reg
that?
requires.
Well, let's review that information
Yeah.
before we discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, the NHMA put out a little document, you might have even been the one that sent it to me, and I thought I remembered seeing
I don't
that
remember
as a
that part of
statement.
it. Okay, then it talks about accepting the improvements and releasing the securities, and then the requirements for as-built plans. And then on page 49, it goes into enforcement, violations, and penalties. And that is, well, the Public Works, it says here that they shall conform and enforce driveway and street opening permits. But other enforcement comes from, it's really the code enforcement officer, but they're calling it the town and administrative officer charged with enforcing the zoning ordinance. And that, Derek asked me to put that in that way, so,
That's in case someone else has to do it?
yeah.
As a fill-in?
Yeah. And then we have violations, process to avoid breach. We have all of this in our old ordinance as well, but some things may have changed. We have cease and desist orders, and that's all about enforcement. Then we get into design standards.
Before you go there, Joanne, Scott, is there any statement in any of our development regulations that the signage be posted that winter maintenance is not performed and trash collection not, is that in our development regulations?
Yes, it's in the current edition
Okay,
as
good,
well.
I'll make sure
Yeah.
that was in there. Thank
Yep.
you.
I did find that it's the language is, I just lost it. Sorry.
3, 2,
No forfeiture or automatic call bonds are allowed to be required by the by a planning board. And this is in the NHMA's
That's
summary
something we'll-
of
we'll have
SB
to
78.
Talk to our
Could you
attorney
dumb
about
that
that.
down for me? I don't know what that means.
it means that we don't have to follow the bond. It automatically renews until it's released by document.
So now we have to keep bugging the person that maintains the bond. to
We
make sure
have to
they
keep
renew
our
it.
own tracking system in-house.
That's cute.
Do you have the number of that?
SB 78, but that was from 23, right, or 20?
Yeah, those.
SB 78?
Yeah,
There's a
and it's
reason
from
for that.
23,
There's a reason for
2023.
that.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, the reason is because most towns will,
Forget
Forget.
to follow up, and the
The
developer
developers,
Well, the
benefits.
developer wants their money back, though. They don't forget.
yeah, but if the town forgets, they get it back without
right,
finishing the job.
right.
Next.
Oh, well, that doesn't happen here.
Okay, Joanne, next.
Okay.
Sorry.
Page.
Sidetracked us.
We're on page 54, and that is
Following along.
Appendix A, Design Standards. So this is,
That's all that fun stuff.
it's all the, yeah, it's just like everything that
That's way
has
above
a
our
standard
degree of
involved,
planning
such
board
like
members.
wetland placards and monuments and all of that.
And you
And then,
didn't substantially change anything on like the road standards or anything like that, it's just.
Just
maybe
a
we
few
get
things
more
here and there
organized
that
and
we've
tweaked.
had issues with over the past. If you'd like, I can look through my marked up copy and let you know what's changed. But,
Very good.
um,
One thing, we don't let them put detention ponds in front yards anymore, because the first thing they do is fill them in. You wanna know why the drainage backs up.
and then it covers grading, utilities, water system, sanitary sewer, stormwater management. I'd have to do the same as what Scott just mentioned, is look through the the first and second drafts that we did to see, kind of give you like a little bit of an overview of what was changed. But I was hoping people could read through this and see if they like it versus going back to the old. Because everybody knows how we do it with the old regulations, or current regulations, I should say.
One thing you'll notice, and maybe you won't notice, all the stormwater standards have been taken out of this. So prior to me even starting here, that our EPA stormwater permit, our MS4 permit, has specific requirements, and one of those was that the town created a stormwater ordinance that gave the town the authority to basically police stormwater issues, and part of that was creating a stormwater standard. And DPW has done that, and prior to me being here, the select board approved the ordinance and approved DPW to be the one that the entity that maintains the stormwater standards. So I can include that, a copy of that for everyone, but it's
something that's in cut in stone here in town right now, but
the stormwater standards are still in draft form because they contradict stuff that's in the existing ones. So we aren't implementing the stormwater standards until these are adopted.
Okay, right, that makes sense.
We're requiring
No,
basically treatment levels of stormwater. The water that comes out of treatment ponds has to meet specific levels of total suspended solids, phosphorus.
and who's gonna
nitrogen.
monitor all that?
Well, it's really at the design level. At the design level, they have to show their BMPs are designed to treat for those
A new piece of
specific
software
things.
was recently requested to track for some of that, I believe.
Not by me.
I saw it
By
come
me.
through the select board. For
Well,
the
then we-
stormwater, yeah.
All right, well, you can report on that at our next meeting, Josh.
I don't know if it's been
Unless it's-
purchased. It's an addendum to one of the tools that you have.
Oh,
Okay,
I don't know what that is.
could be part of your MS4 permit.
I'm the one that maintains our MS4 stuff, so.
Yeah, maybe you should talk
whatever
to Adam.
doing,
Yeah,
Maybe it's Eric.
maybe talk to Adam.
Eric is
No.
driveway permits, he's
Yeah,
at.
Eric tries to stay away from MS4 if he doesn't have to touch it.
All right, let's move on, we're dragging here.
Okay, Appendix B on page 67 starts the roadway standards. And those go on for several pages. And then I have an insert that I received from the fire chief where they would like to add several things. I don't
Joanne,
know if you
I
got
would,
this.
I would be happy to add anything the fire chief would like to add, as long as it's codified in NFPA rules. I do not want to put opinions into our regulations that are not codified. So please, review the documents that they submitted, and if they're NFPA codified, then I'm happy to insert them,
Is
but,
that the cistern standards that you're talking about? Or is it
There's
something
a
different?
couple of different things.
you know, I would like to see and have a discussion with them. If they want to put stuff in, I think they should send a representative to the meeting when we have a discussion, and they can explain them to us, what's going on with them.
I agree with that.
Joanne, this says Appendix D is reserved, what's that, and then Appendix E is the cistern standards. Is D reserved for something in particular, or just, is that a placeholder for the
I
other
think it was
fires?
just a placeholder for something we might want, but not anything in particular.
That's what I do know that it says. I wasn't sure if there was something forthcoming, or if we're just
No.
holding that for now.
No.
Oh, one thing that's actually forthcoming, that I'm just looking at the index, or the appendix right now, or index, yeah. We've actually drafted up standard details finally for everything in town, so we're gonna include that as an appendix to the development regulations.
That's the checklist, or
No, standard details are like what a contractor would know, what materials and how a pipe's installed, so you have a certain amount of stone up to a certain point of the pipe trench, how wide the trench has to be depending on how big the pipe is.
And where's that want to be?
It's gonna be an appendix to this.
Why can't it be just referred to DPW standards and you guys can supply them?
We can do that.
I think that's a much better way.
So that way, if you need to change it or whatever, you
Yeah.
You
can.
can change it, you can change it.
Oh,
every
we
week.
can't change it if it's in here then, right?
That's right.
Well, we
correct.
can, but we have to have a hearing. And
Okay.
So I would say, construction standards and specifics should be received from the Department of Public Works, and
Okay.
you can give them, cross sections or whatever you
Yeah,
want.
point them to the location or document number or whatever.
I think somewhere in here, I had asked that for shared driveways, that there be no more than 2 lots sharing a driveway versus up to 3, which is what we have now.
I think two is more than I like, but I think we should also review that the shared driveway, we would only give them a certain amount of length of a shared driveway. Because a shared driveway is something we're passing on to future purchasers' problems. I think a shared driveway could certainly share the center line of the property line, could be the center line of the driveway, and they could go in 15, 20, 30 feet and split and become 2 driveways and have 1 curb cut. I think that's a great idea. But when we approved that shared driveway over on Tenney Road for that back lot, that's a half a mile long, we gave them the wrong decision, and I voted against it that night. Because that is going to end up in court someday. And we approved it, and I think we erred on that decision. So when you start talking about shared driveways, we should have limitations on how much a shared driveway can extend before it has to become privately owned or something to that effect.
Okay.
Joanne, on that point, I'd make sure that the driveways, because isn't it, if it's serving 3 or more units for NFPA standards, 3 or more units is now a road, not a driveway. So
Right.
that's where it meets the road standards. So I guess, just making sure that's defined in here, that
That's an
if it's-
NFPA standard?
So it wouldn't meet so it wouldn't need to meet the
Yeah.
NFPA unless it was
if
over
it was,
300 feet.
if it was serving, like, and I could just be, but I was 99% sure that one of the things was, because that's what drove something else to being a
Yeah.
road
Yeah, you're
standard, so you
right.
can't just meet the width of the driveway, you're a road now
Right.
for NFPA if you're serving 3 or more units.
We're also talking about grade differential, 8% for a
Yes.
so and
So
10% for a
so it
driveway.
So that's why I
triggers,
think
triggers
it's
a
better
grading.
To max it out is for
We need to
two,
discuss
Yeah.
more of that.
for
Yeah.
2 driveways,
'Cause I-
and then it wouldn't need to be
Yeah.
built as a road, it would
Yeah,
just be a
then
driveway.
it could just be a driveway,
Yeah.
but once you add that third structure on
Right.
there, now
And is
it's-
that codified in NFPA regulations, or is that a suggestion?
that's in NFPA, I would need, it was a couple years ago, I'm not the fire chief, so I don't look at
Alright,
it
we'll
daily,
find out.
but
No.
we can find it.
Just a question though on that, kind of for clarification, I mean, we may have the issue at some point too, because the grade differences between the roadway
Yeah.
and the driveway. Now,
Yeah.
when you have these coming together, okay, they come together and then they separate. Now, is there a point where it's a road and it's a driveway? What is that? But I think it's important to try to find that out,
Yeah.
because part of that is you have the difference in the elevation between the driveway and the roadway. So at what point is it become a driveway where they could have the 10%?
Yeah.
So, just so that we don't,
We have to review all that and
Yeah,
figure out how
yeah.
it's all, because it's twisted a little bit, I think, right
Yeah.
now. Joanne, please,
Just 1 second, I'm just writing this down.
you got 4 minutes left. Actually, you got 4, because I need 1. And then we can have Phil's motion.
Okay. And the next section is E, Appendix E, which is on page 82. That covers the cistern requirements, and that was provided to us by the fire chief. And then we come to Appendix F, which is the open space development standards, which will be,
We're working on that.
at some point, we'll
We're
have
working
something
on that on
one.
another subcommittee.
So that goes on, and then, let's see, what's next? Next is Appendix G, landscaping and screening.
We have to talk about that because we seem to become very lax on landscaping standards with developments lately. We're allowing them,
well,
in some cases, we make them spend thousands and thousands of dollars to plant trees, In other cases, we let them use their trees as an excuse.
Well, one thing on that, point on that, on the thing on the approval from Bedford, I noticed on there, when they talked about the screening and the shrubbery and everything, and they specified landscape designer and approval, certification that it was done correctly. That might, if we look into something like that, help eliminate some of the issues that we had with the screening.
You would not believe how the developers for the field house added to the original screening plan. You would not believe the number of trees they are proposing for that site, because they knew Bedford is very tough on screening
Right,
and
but
landscaping.
also,
Watch that, Sheriff.
one thing I have to say about St. A's, when you go to the campus,
They're gonna do it right.
when it comes to that stuff.
But the point is that Bedford is tough on that, and they were very, very willing to add another 24 trees over here, and this and that over there.
Well, my point being, just for thought, next time we review these, design, because you have a design a landscape design person, they know what shrubs to put where.
Mhm.
Okay, and then that they have it certified that it's been done correctly. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
Okay.
So somewhere along the lines of the last year or so, I have started to be the one that was counting shrubs and bushes. So now when I write or have VHB or whoever write the scope for their inspections,
to do it.
I'm having them include
Yep.
checking the landscaping now too.
Good, and let the applicant pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good.
So I've got that on 3 of the most
Yeah.
recent ones, because actually with the St. A's project, I went out there to count trees and there were some missing, and they had a bunch more than that were even on the plan, and I had to call them and I was like, hey, you told me this was done, it wasn't done, and I had to go out there like twice to count stupid trees, and
Checking to see if it's a spruce or a fir, and
And
I
don't-
just looked at how big it was in the description, so.
And I don't know if we need to make a clarifying statement on the plan that states that they are responsible for landscaping for the life of the project. Dead trees have to be replaced, dead shrubs have to be replaced.
Yeah, it's in the regs, or
Good, I'm glad it says it, because I never
it
read
used to be, I don't know, I have to reread it, it's been a while since.
All
I
right, Joanne, time is up
Okay.
for tonight.
All right.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to ask one question for consideration tonight. I've been reading the paper. Peterborough and another town have adopted what they call cottage zoning, for certain types of small houses and on certain parcels that have the right sewer and water and such. So when we do our zoning articles later this year, we might want to get have a presentation from that people that are promoting cottage zoning, and we can consider whether we want to move forward in that direction or not. It seemed pretty nice for
Tiny homes.
tiny houses, but it seems to be a success in a couple of the towns. So if we want to be progressive and look at it, it wouldn't hurt us to at least look at it. We don't have to create a zoning article, but we could look at it.
You plan it for the future, Tim?
Well, I have 27 acres. I don't want to do a big project.
It'll be all
All right, anybody have anything else other than what I just brought up for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Richard to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you, GTV, we are adjourned.